Hi, my name is Sandy Banerjee, and I lead marketing at Neeva.
And I'm Ario Jafarzadeh, and I lead product design here at Neeva.
Can you talk a little bit more about how you learned the art and science of product design and how you encourage others to sort of build their skill set and learn about the area and the role?
Yeah, I would say first and foremost, just being a mindful user, just using lots of different products, making mental notes, writing them down, sharing them about what you like, what you don't like, how you think it could be better. And then when you want to get even deeper into the craft, it's learning the design tools, it's learning the tricks of the trade, around graphic design, psychology, and all of these different things, and you sort of stack all of these talents, and then voila, you have enough to actually be a competent product designer.
Yeah, you talk a little bit about being able to immerse yourself in the products to really learn the interaction patterns, how people think, how people use them. What would you recommend to someone that wants to learn the craft of product design?
It really depends on sort of where you are, what's your budget, what's your time frame. If you go to a graduate school program, it might be 2 years before you pop out the other end. So I think, figure out what's the container you're operating in, but universally, everybody should be dialed into design Twitter, following like influential people that are sharing stuff. You can start with me. I'm Ario on Twitter if you want to see some stuff there. And then being active in just like all of the design community online. There's Slack groups, there's Medium, and then there's these boot camps that you can sign up for. They will get you kind of dangerous enough to take on an entry-level position. But what I think that grad school program does is give you all this philosophical and academic like underpinning, so that you understand at a deeper level what it is that you're doing, rather than just kind of like moving the pixels around.
Makes sense. Can you talk to me a little bit more about building a portfolio? How do you go about creating a base of work that you can then show to people? How do you think about diversity there?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people who go into either boot camps or formal academia programs for design will have portfolio pieces from their schoolwork. Those will be interesting to look at, but I think even more interesting are what are those side projects? What are those things that you are proactively going out and finding as projects that are either passion projects of your own, or you're trying to help out, like maybe a business down the street needs a website, or it could be your dream app. Maybe you don't build it with code, but you could at least depict it in your portfolio and have a really interesting story to tell around that. I think it's all about storytelling.
What do you think is the best way to break into a tech company?
Yeah, I mean, first is knowing which company that you would have your sights on. I really recommend, instead of people taking the tack of looking at LinkedIn, for example, and just seeing what jobs are available, I think that has its place. Why don't you just kind of close your eyes and imagine, what are the products you use? What are the places that would be a dream job for you? And then crafting your portfolio as a story that would then compel the people working there to pay attention to you.
It's very competitive to get into some of these tech companies. How can product designers set themselves apart?
Yeah, I think going back to that storytelling idea, a project in your portfolio that really does tell the story of you trying to make some aspect of the world better for some real users, and then also writing about your interests. So that could be as easy as tweets on Twitter. It could be a Medium post about some aspect of the web or apps or anything. It doesn't even have to be digital. Just something where you're trying to point out the state of the world, and then how it could be a better version of how it could be.
What do you look for when you interview a product designer?
I'm really looking for that intellectual curiosity and demonstration of problem solving. Are they coming at it from a perspective of deep need finding? Like, is it just them wanting to see something personally out in the world? There's room for that too. But if they are really trying to solve problems for other people aside from themselves, that's the first thing I'm looking for, to see, have they spoken with those people? Have they spent time with them, put themselves in those shoes? And then have they come up with options? I think that's another thing, is just, I don't want to see your one solution. Like most interviews, it's about seeing how you think, not necessarily the end result.
And product designers tend to be sort of deeply embedded in the product team. They work very closely with cross-functional partners. Can you talk a bit about that? Like, if someone were to break into tech, what kind of functions and roles would they expect to interact with and engage with sort of on a daily basis?
Yeah, there's a phrase for this called the three-legged or the four-legged stool. Three would be design, product management, and engineering, and then optionally maybe add data scientist to that stool. So those would be the main cross functions that are really in in the mix to build the thing that you're going to try to build. You know, and if you're younger or a student in this industry, you won't necessarily be in a company with all of those roles. So what's the next best thing you can do is, if you're in a university setting, like find another engineer. Like if you're in a design program, walk across the street to the computer science building, like make friends who are in those cross-functional roles and try to build something with them. I think that would be the ultimate thing to put in your portfolio or story you could tell, is not only that you have an idea yourself, but then you try to collaborate with somebody else on it to actually, you know, take it a step further.
In your experience, is there any difference in working in product design at, say, a startup versus a bigger company like Google?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the proverbial many hats is what everybody is the pat answer for this, and it's just so true. Like if you're in a smaller company, you know, we're a small company, you're going to be asked to do lots of stuff. You might switch projects a little bit at a more rapid clip than you would in a bigger organization. You might stay in one vertical, for example, in one of the FANG companies for a year or two before you're sort of allowed to or like desire to move. You may switch 5 times in a year in a startup, if not more, and then you're just impact. Like you're taking on a big slice of the pie. You may be the only designer for a team of, like, let's say 6 engineers, and so you know, they're waiting with bated breath for every mock-up that you create. Like pretty much everything you create is going to be going right into the product, whereas in a bigger company there's all these levels of approvals and iteration, and it just, everything has to be kind of have more care around it than in a startup.
Well, great. Thanks for the chat. Hopefully folks at home learned some good tips and tricks on breaking into product design. Anything else to add?
Yeah, we've actually put together some resources around design on our Neeva space, which you can find here. If you'd like to learn more about the product we work on, Neeva, the world's first ad-free and private search engine, then just subscribe here.
Thanks, all.